fellow travelers, welcome on in. This is the RPG Cave, level 147. I am one of your hosts, the level 199 human Dark Lord, Ryan Turford, and I am joined for the first time ever, in fact, making her podcast debut, the level 199 elf paladin, Lissala is here. Welcome on in, Lissala. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good.
Yeah, you excited? You excited to talk role-playing games on this fine Saturday morning?
I'm always excited to talk about role-playing games.
Excellent. Of course, though, for folks that don't know you, where can people find you? What kind of stuff do you do? And just tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, I'm a mom of 3 kids, and I stream, and I cosplay, and I make cosplay and content in general. I'm a streamer for Awaken Militia, and I stream almost every day on Twitch. My tag on Twitch and Twitter, which I'm most active on, are Lissala la la la. Lissala was taken. Please leave it alone.
I was going to say, I remember this was the whole thing when we were setting this up a long time ago. Of course, folks that don't know, Lissala and I have been friends for a long time. So we were, I remember when we were brainstorming names, it was just like, well, that was kind of the best we could come up with at the time.
Yep.
Yeah. But the best part is you actually do a lot of streams that are very different from the streams you actually find here on Carpool, because you usually do a lot of like very chill kind of like paddleboarding streams or walking on the beach at sunset or like
so
really
right now,
stuff.
yeah, well, the weather's nice here in Canada, but as soon as it's cold again, I'll be doing gaming streams all the time. You will not catch me outside when it's snowing. It's not happening.
You mean to tell me you're not going to do like a snowmobile stream or something? Just randomly?
That's actually tempting. If I could find a snowmobile, maybe.
See, look at me. I've got good ideas sometimes. But of course, you also stream like TFT League. And of course, like the other night, you were streaming Legend of Dragoon, which I'm sure we're going to talk about later in the show as well. So, of course, this has been an episode I've wanted to do for a very long time. This is kind of like an episode that's been like at least a year or two in the making. But honestly, it's been like 12 years in the making, because when I look back, because I've been doing podcasts now for 10 years now. And looking back on it, like I always wanted to have you on as a guest on like my old podcast back in the day, and we just never could make that work. And then I wanted to have you on last year to talk about Legend of Dragoon or some other stuff, and that didn't work either. But we finally found the window, y'all, and I'm so excited that we're finally going to get a chance to do this. So we'll talk more about you in just a second. Of course, if you want to check out any of Lissala's stuff, I've linked all the links in the description of this podcast, if you're listening on audio feeds or on the video, to her pillar, which has all her links on it. So go check all of her stuff out there. And yeah, her streams are really awesome. So go check those out. But of course, let's clear the dungeon so we can get to the raid boss as quickly as possible. So folks at home, if you want to support the show, there's a number of amazing ways you can do that. Number one, if you're watching the live stream right meow, or at youtube.com/carpoolgaming, or if you're watching the video on demand later, don't forget to hit that like button, kick that subscribe button, and then maybe roll a d20, and then let us know what you rolled on the d20 in the comments below. We would love to hear from you. Also, what do you think about 90s role-playing games, or how awesome is Lissala? Please let us know as well. We'd love to hear from you. Also, if you're listening on audio feeds, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well. But also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please make sure to leave a review on those platforms as well, because that helps the show get discovered. Also, if you want one big podcast feed with the entire Carpool Gaming cinematic universe on it, head on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/carpoolgaming, just like Peje EP did, who upgraded to the platinum tier. So shout out to Peje, who upgraded to platinum, and the Jiggy Collector. Yes, the Jiggy Collector. That's their name. I guess they collect jiggies from Banjo-Kazooie. I guess that's the thing. They joined at the gold tier. So shout out to all of our patrons over at patreon.com/carpoolgaming. And last but not least, we have our website, carpoolgaming.com, where if you want an RPG Cave t-shirt or some of our other merch, of course, we've got it all over there. Now, I don't know if you've seen these, Lissala, but we have a bunch of seasonal merch that is happening right now. Of course, we still have our Summer Game Fest merch featuring Poolside Bobby. This, of course, we did for Summer Game Fest. Of course, this is expiring at the end of the month, so make sure to head on over to carpoolgaming.com and get one of those. We also have the Campfire t-shirt from our new show Campfire, which is up there as well as we have new merch for our Ultimate and platinum producers like Peje EP over on the Patreon. We have a big announcement about that coming soon, so make sure to check that out as well. But without further ado, it is now time to read from the sacred texts, because we are going to talk all about the games that we grew up with. I figured we were going to have like a nice, I didn't want to bombard you with too many, new things since it is your first podcast. So we're going to have a chill conversation about, what the RPGs we grew up with, how we got into role-playing games. So I'm going to start with you, since I've talked a whole lot, and I probably need to hydrate a little bit.
Need to take a drink.
Exactly. So I'm going to start with you. First of all, shout out to Thomas D, who says, hello, Ryan and Lissala. Well, hello, Thomas D. Hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful Saturday. I want you to tell me how you got into role-playing games. Is there a story behind this? I know, like, the first game you played, if I remember correctly, was The Legend of Zelda on the NES. But how did you get into role-playing games in the first place? Is there a weird story there like mine?
So that's the first console game I've played. I don't think it's the first game I've played, if you consider, like, maybe handhelds or even arcade games.
Those count. Those are technically video games.
But I prefer the console games, so yeah. And I got into it through my dad. My dad loved Legend of Zelda. It was his favorite thing ever. I saw him playing Legend of Zelda all the time, any game that came out.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so he actually trudged through Zelda 2, aka the greatest Zelda game of all time?
He played all of the Zeldas that he could up to, I think, Breath of the Wild.
Okay, that's nice. So besides Zelda, like, do you remember like the first like turn-based role-playing game that you played? Like what that would have been?
Oh my goodness! I mean, I feel like Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
probably
the original one on NES or
no.
Super Nintendo one.
So I only watched those games being played when I was younger. I started playing them when I got my PlayStation. So my first would probably be Final Fantasy VII.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Because I know, like, we you had like a few Super Nintendo role-playing games, and I didn't know. I figured those were mostly your dad's anyways, but I didn't know if you played them growing up or anything like that.
My dad played like Dragon Quest and things like that, and I didn't really play those games. I didn't play Fire Emblem until I was a bit older. I didn't play any of the fun games until I was a lot older, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, like, Fire Emblem is one of those things where, like, that's a series that really only existed in Japan until after Smash Brothers.
Super Mario is pretty much what I was stuck with my, entire childhood. I played Super Mario and Duck Hunt.
Excellent. Me too. That was actually, like, when I got my NES console. Of course, we probably both had the same one with, like, Mario and Duck Hunt, cartridge. And I played the mess out of those to the point where my parents were, like, really worried that, I was just going to spend all my time playing video games. And I guess they were right, because that's kind of how that works.
That's what happened,
Yeah, that's kind of how it works. But it's always interesting because I always love hearing how people got into role-playing games, because everyone always has like a different story or a different take on it. And also you, like, we've had this discussion before, but like your definition of what makes a role-playing game is actually very different from, what I usually do. Right?
I can turn a lot of different games into RPGs, yeah.
Okay, so I need to, the listeners need to hear more about this. So what to you defines a role-playing game then?
What defines a role-playing game? A role-playing game is defined as when you're playing as a character and there's a story in the game. Anything can be made into a role-playing game. Almost anything, in my mind.
That's an interesting
Even some
take.
of the puzzle games can be considered role-playing games.
Yeah. Because I've heard a similar, because Garrett and I did an entire episode on like what makes a role-playing game. And as we talked about it, like that opinion actually came up from the community. Like other community members actually kind of feel the same way. Like in a lot of ways, it kind of harkens back to, old pen and paper RPGs in a lot of ways. Because like you play D&D and it's not really, defined by a lot of mechanics and stuff like that. It's more just what you make up in your imagination in a lot of ways.
Yeah, exactly. I played this game when I was younger. It was called Busts Loose, and it was one of those like Acme games. So was it Tiny Toon Adventures
Bust Loose?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. You know exactly which game I'm talking about.
I played it a lot when I was a kid too. So.
I would argue even that's a role-playing game. It's just like a side scroller with mini games, but I would argue that is a role-playing game too.
Okay, that's an interesting thought process. But because like first of all, I played that game a lot. Like I really liked Tiny Toons growing up, but then like a lot of the Tiny Toons games were actually pretty fun. Like that.
Yeah,
was a good
played
one.
That game so much, and I feel like it was the inspiration for the Pokemon Stadium games.
Right. Yeah, because there was a lot of silliness going on outside of just the platforming stuff,
Yeah.
which was super cool. Like, yeah, like Konami was kind of on top of their game at that point because they had a bunch of good Tiny Toons games. The NES one in particular, I think, is probably the best one. But I actually think there's a lot of really good ones out there,
Yeah.
which is cool. But that's cool. So, of course, everyone kind of knows my story by now. You know, I started out, you know, thinking role-playing games were terrible because I was told by a random video store clerk that the Genghis Khan on the NES was a role-playing game that we decided to rent once, which was one of the worst games I've ever played. Of course, it's a Romance of the Three Kingdoms style, you know, strategy game in a lot of ways. It's not a role-playing game at all. But we thought all role-playing games were like that because that's what he told us it was. And it wasn't until actually I played Shining Force 2, which I have in the box here, on the Sega channel. When I had my Sega Genesis, and this is really what propelled me into this. Now, you're probably not familiar with this series. I can't remember if we've talked about this series before.
I skipped the Genesis entirely, so as Sega consoles were not...
Because this game, I think you actually might really like because it's basically Sega's answer to Fire Emblem. But we actually got this in the United States, whereas Fire Emblem didn't come over until, you know, Smash Brothers Brawl on the GameCube, right? So or Melee. So this game's actually pretty fun, and it's what really got me into role-playing games, and of course... The other two games that really kind of solidified them for me, of course, the two Lunar games on Sega CD as well, which I'm sure we're going to talk about Lunar in a little bit too.
It's on my list.
Yeah, because of course, like Garrett, I finally made Garrett play Lunar for the first time this year. So we finally had like a big discussion about that. But I love the fact that you and I both kind of bonded over that because we both played that growing up as well. So we'll talk about that in a bit. But otherwise, I think it's time we'll transition a little bit into the RPGs that we grew up with. And we're going to talk about, you know, 90s role-playing games, but also just RPGs that we played kind of growing up. And I think for both of us, because I also didn't really play a lot of Super Nintendo RPGs until much later in life. So, like, I mostly grew up with RPGs on the PlayStation 1 as well.
Same.
So, yeah, so we're both kind of in the same boat. So I think the PlayStation 1 is probably a good place to start. But before I get into that as well, did you also play, because I know you played portable RPGs as well, like you played Pokemon and stuff like that too. Like, did you play them around this time frame, or did you mostly play those after, like, later in life?
I did play Pokemon right when it came out. That's why, I mean, like, if we consider handhelds, I would say Pokemon was definitely my main game. I played that way more than Zelda games. Okay.
Because, like, handheld games are definitely still games, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not talking about Tiger Electronic games. You probably don't remember those, but those were like really,
I do
really
remember those.
Oh,
and yeah, my games were like on, you know, like the really chunky Game Boy, the old gray one, and then when I got an upgrade, I got the clear purple one, and that was the best.
Nice. Yeah, I mean the Game Boy Color was pretty sweet, but I mean I also had the chunky Game Boy growing up too. But I never really had like a Game Boy Color or anything like that. But I also had like the giant like assembly for my Game Boy, which had like the magnifying glass on it and like the fold out speakers and like a big light on it and stuff.
I remember that.
Yeah, it basically made it so it wasn't portable at all. But like in theory, you could bring it with you if you wanted to. But it was just very silly. But yeah, like I know that you were really into Pokemon as well, so I wanted to make sure we brought it up as well. So mostly like I'm guessing like you started with red and blue, right?
Yeah, I started with red.
Yeah, nice. And then you mostly played other Pokemon games from there, I'm guessing?
Yep. I played, I actually was really close with the employees at my favorite game store. So they would give me the games like 2 weeks before they came out to play test for
Oh my
them.
God.
So I was playing like green and yellow when nobody else was playing it.
Jesus. That's like a really good perk. Like, how does that even happen?
I spent a lot of time there, and I guess I'm a little charismatic, so they liked me.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. That's cool. I didn't know that. Because, like, I used to brag all the time that I would go to my local Walmart that would just put games out on the shelf early, and I would just buy the games early.
Yeah.
I played Mass Effect 2, like, 3 weeks before the game came out, and I thought I was special. But, like, look at you over here.
That is pretty special still. So
yeah, exactly.
You're still up there.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm glad you think so. But of course, we'll talk about Final Fantasy VII because I think that's probably the first one that you mentioned as well.
Yeah.
Kind of really, really got you into it. But it was also, for me, like the game on my PlayStation 1. It wasn't the first game I got for my PlayStation 1. But it was the one that really, really, like, I fell down the rabbit hole hard with Final Fantasy VII.
100%. And that was the first PlayStation game that I had. I actually picked it up with my PlayStation. So I played that game so much. Like the first disc of that game, I couldn't I can walk through in my brain easily, like the conversations, where every hidden thing is, everything.
Yep. Same. I'm very much in the same boat where it's just like that game lives rent free in my brain forever because I've beaten it like 14 or 15 times.
You want to know the worst thing ever is I've never beaten it.
What? How? How? Like, how did we let this happen?
You should know that I am notorious for not finishing games.
I did know that about you.
The only Final Fantasy I've ever completed is Final Fantasy VIII. I play the crap out of them, but I never get to the finish line.
Oh, that's interesting. So you don't even know how it ends then?
There are very few games that I have gotten to the... all I know is that there are weapons, and I don't know what happens after that.
Oh my god. One of these days
I probably know more from Rebirth than I do from the original Final Fantasy VII at this point.
Well, it is like very current.
It's right around the same spot that they end, where I also stopped playing.
Yeah, because they start, but in Rebirth they start and like bringing the weapons up even earlier than they do in the original.
Yeah. I noticed that just 2 days ago. I was watching that. I was like, "What? How are their weapons? Nothing has happened yet. They haven't even gotten."
Because that's the whole point of the weapons, is that they're supposed to come when the planet's in danger, and they haven't gotten there yet.
I guess they feel like the planet's already in danger.
I guess, or they're just swimming around in Mako, just hanging out.
Yeah.
I guess. But yeah, like I thought, that was really interesting. We'll have to talk about Rebirth at some point, but because that's when you finish it, or because that's really, really interesting. I'm interested to know what you think about where the story goes.
I'm still around Costa del Sol, so
yeah, I'm
gonna replay it all on stream though. So
okay,
we can talk about it then.
Are you doing all the mini games? Because there's so many mini games.
I'm gonna 100% it on stream.
Oh my god, that's gonna take like 200 hours to finish. Because like famously, we've been talking about that on the PlayStation Drive. Because Nagachaka is going for the platinum trophy in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and he finished his first playthrough. It's like 100 hours, and he didn't even finish everything, and he's got to go back and do it all over again on hard. And then
I guess we'll see how long it takes.
Yeah, it's gonna be ridiculous, but. So Final Fantasy VII for me, like it was just one of those games. Like it was a defining game for me, in a lot of ways. It really just made me like really solidified that RPGs would always be, my jam, and a thing in my life going forward. But also, we'll talk transition because the game I actually got with my PlayStation 1. Was this game, Lunar Silver Star Complete. And this, of course, this box is not in great shape. It's like coming apart at the seams and stuff because this was actually a shelf copy at my local EB Games when I went to go get it. And they were like, hey, we only have this one copy left. And it's been sitting on the shelf and it's not in good shape. Do you still want it? And I'm like, yeah, of course. And I'm glad I did because I never saw this game in the wild ever again. So I'm glad I actually picked it up when I did. But of course, I know that you also loved this game growing up as well, right?
Yeah, that's one of my all-time favorite games. I would say I played that game a lot, but that's another game I have not finished.
It's too bad. You just don't know what's on. Do you even at least know? Did you at least make it to the second disc at least?
You would have to refresh my memory where the second disc.
Oh, I'm not gonna. I don't remember either.
I'm pretty sure I did. Like I made it pretty far in the game. Yeah, I actually did make it really far in the game. Same with the one that comes like Lunar 2.
You mean this one? Lunar 2 Eternal Blue?
Yes,
that I'm
Eternal
showing
Blue.
off as well. In the biggest box ever. It's got so much stuff in it.
It has lots of goodies.
It does.
I still have all of my goodies from it.
It's basically like, little Guess Who figures. Like basically you're playing Guess Who but with the Lunar characters.
I love it. That's actually a great idea. We should do that sometime.
We should. Excellent. We'll do it.
We have one set each, so we could even do it long distance.
That's what I mean.
Long distance Guess Who with Lunar characters.
Well, I mean, they don't have any of the Lunar 1 characters in there though. It's all the Lunar 2 characters.
I'll draw them or I'll print them out and I'll make my own little standees of them for
Excellent.
us.
We'll guess that you were actually Master Mel this whole time.
Exactly.
Good God. What have we started? I'm so excited about this. See, this is the type of happy stuff I was excited to talk about. But Lunar again, I was so excited about the remake because I saw that there was a remake of Lunar coming in magazines because back in the day, Lissala, we read magazines because the internet wasn't really much of a thing back then. So I was so excited when a remake was coming out that was the game I actually bought with my PlayStation 1, was Lunar. And that was the thing that actually got me to go out and buy one. Because all my friends all had N64s, but I had the PlayStation.
Which was an excellent console.
But not for role-playing games.
No, not for role-playing games.
You had Quest 64, and that was basically it. And that
I would argue that Diddy Kong Racing is totally a role-playing game.
Oh my God. I at some point feel like I need to hear. You know what? No, this can't wait. I need to know the logistics behind what makes Diddy Kong Racing a role-playing game.
You play as characters. There's a story in the game. The story progresses as you beat the levels. It's a role-playing game. You even get to choose your character and customize your character with what they're driving. And you get to drive around in it. It's not just racing. Like, you can actually drive around the map.
That's true.
And there are things that you can collect, and like there's a character that's angry with you, and so yeah, it's got to be a role-playing game. Right?
Put that on the back of the box. Quote from Lissala: "A character is angry at you. It's totally a role-playing game." Good God. Oh my God. I love it. I love it so much. But yes, so Diddy Kong Racing, sure, the newest hip role playing game you'll find at your local store. So N64 for me, famously not a good role playing game console, but I was really getting into role playing games because of the Sega CD and the Sega Genesis. So that's kind of what spurred that on a little bit. But also too, around the same time, that's when anime started popping up on TV. Because I was just flipping on the channels one day, and I popped by YTV here in Canada, and Sailor Moon was on, and I had never seen anime before, or didn't recognize what anime even was. So when I saw that, I kind of connected to the dots, and I'm like, wait, that's the same art that's in the cutscenes from Lunar, and then like something exploded into my brain where I was like, 2 and 2 were connected together. I'm like, oh my God, I really like this. I need to find more of this. And of course, there was no other anime around back then. Eventually, Dragon Ball Z came, but like, that was kind of my introduction. My gateway into anime was RPGs too.
I believe Sailor Moon came out in 95 or 97.
Yeah.
Followed closely after by Pokemon.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. I guess because I did watch Pokemon around the same time.
And Digimon came around the same time.
Yeah, I didn't watch Digimon.
I loved Digimon. It was the best.
That's true.
And Digimon had really good games for the PlayStation.
I do remember seeing those in your collection as well. Those Digimon games, where I've just never played any Digimon games, but I also just didn't really go up with the show because I think, like, since I'm a few years older than you, like at the time, I was like, I had that attitude where I was like, oh, I'm too old for Digimon, or I eventually was like, I'm too old for Pokemon, and then I realized that was a mistake. And
Digimon is like one of the best shows of all time. Just saying.
I remember how excited you were with like the reboot of Digimon when it came out.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Did you ever actually play any of the modern Digimon games? Because I've heard those are pretty good too, like Cyber Sleuth or Survive.
Yes, I played Cyber Sleuth a little bit, but again, I do not complete games.
Yeah, well, I know. I was just curious.
Actually, wait, Cyber Sleuth, I feel like I had that on a console that I no longer have, like for Xbox One or something.
That's interesting. Because it was PS4, Xbox One generation, like last generation.
Oh, I could have also had it on PS4.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I lost that, yeah.
That game also came out a really long time. It's almost been 10 years since that game came out, which
I
is
can't
just weird to
believe
think
that. I'm so old.
Same. Like, I can't believe, like, think about, like, how, like, God, the PS4 came out 11 years ago.
Stop.
Like, when we were, living together at the time, which is just funny to think about.
Right, that's true. It did come out when we were living together.
Like, when I first moved in, like, that was, like, one of the first things I was so excited to get was the PS4.
And also the new 3DS came out then, too.
Yes, it did. Yeah, we got those fancy ones.
Yes.
Yeah, like I had the Monster Hunter one, you had the Zelda one, of course.
Yeah, and then I got the Fire Emblem one. Yeah.
So, of course, we have to transition, because we still have more PS1 games to talk about. And I know you were going to bring this one up, but I'm just bringing it up now because I have a copy to show off. Legend of Dragoon on PS4. And then over there. Did you have like 8 copies of this game? What happened to all of them?
The reason I have 3 or 4 copies of them is because they're either missing discs or they're scratched. But I swear, if you put 3 of the copies together, they will make one full copy that works.
I love that that's a thing. So funny about this copy is that this is actually not mine. This is actually birthday gift for my brother from my dad.
Oh.
Where my dad was like, "Hey, Kyle, I didn't really get anything for your birthday, so let's just go to the store and pick you up a game for your birthday," because he wanted to get him something he actually wanted. And this was the game that my brother Kyle picked out, and then I was watching him play this, and I was really, really invested in it. And then eventually, like he was like, "Okay, I'm finally finished the game," so I, of course, took it over and basically just played the mess out of this game because I love Legend of Dragoon. I think this is an incredible game. And I'm finally so happy that I'm finally on this show with someone else who's played this game, because like I feel like I'm going crazy because I try and talk to people in the community who like role-playing games, and like no one's played this game.
I don't know. That's blasphemy. They need to. They can't consider themselves true RPG aficionados if they don't play this game, because this game has a unique combat system, and it is my belief that games that have unique combat systems as RPGs must be played because they must be explored.
Yes, exactly. Like I love the fact that it's like a timing-based combat system, and if you screw up, you get punished for it, which is cool. Or you just don't
especially
deal
if
much
they
damage.
do the backlash thing, which
Yeah.
I'm not that good at getting the timing right still.
Yeah. But it's still fun, though, and it's unique, and you're right. And not only that, too, the story is actually really good in this game, despite the fact that it's got some wonky translation. But, like, you know, there's some weird spelling of words and stuff like that. But I don't know, man. This game is actually really solid. Like, I love Legend of Dragoon, and this is one of those games, I'm so glad that they actually brought over to the PlayStation 5, which I know you were, again, playing on stream the other night. So then we actually can just play this on modern consoles.
Yes,
nice.
but I want them to remake it so badly. It's like my favorite game of all time on the PlayStation, I think. There are a lot of really good games on the PlayStation. It's hard. Like, between that and Lunar, I'd say that those two they're pretty close.
Okay.
But I really, really, really wish they would remake it with modern day graphics because it deserves it. It's such a good game. It's still a good game.
It also breaks my heart, too, that we actually had a sequel announced for the PlayStation 2 and it got canceled. And it makes me so sad every time I think about that. Because I'm like, because they'll never go back to this franchise now, too.
It is such a good game. They should. They need to. Why not? They go back to everything else. Why can't they go back to this one?
I know. Well, I mean, Japan Studio, the studio that did make it, they kind of shut them down fairly recently. So I don't know if I think that it's not in the cards anymore.
I want to see a From Software version of this game.
What? Why? That sounds so weird.
It would be hilarious to have a Dark Souls style RPG Legend of Dragoon. I feel like it's appropriate. I feel like it's got the aesthetic for it.
I mean, it's got the action-based element to it, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not too crazy with this one. But yes, so I had to at least bring up Legend of Dragoon. I'm sure we'll talk about it later when we get to questions. But like, that was a game for me that I played towards the end of the PlayStation 1 that I really, really loved.
Who's your favorite character?
I really like Rose. I like her backstory. I really like, loved learning about her throughout the experience. I also just like, badass women too. Like, so that's just always kind of been my thing. But I really like her in the story. But what about you? Who's your favorite character?
I'm going to go with an most likely unpopular pick, which would be Shauna.
Oh.
I love Shauna.
I do too. She's
actually
always
been the damsel in distress, but she can still fight. I love her.
Well, I love the fact too that like she tries to put up a fight where Dart's is just like, no, stay back. I don't want you to get involved. And she's like, no, I'm in this with you because I love you and I want to be with you.
Yep. She's also like the original healer to me, you know, like I think I found my love for healers when I found her.
Yeah. Same. Like I actually, I really liked I always had her in my party. Like it was like, there was never an option never to have her. Cause like my party always usually was Dart, Rose and Shauna.
Until they made you replace her with Miranda.
Yeah. Who's not as cool, but it's still a good healer. You still had that.
I didn't say she wasn't good. I just don't like her.
Fair enough. Nagchaka chimes in and says, Legend of Dragoon that's Souls-like multi-passed for me. I'm too soft. Or soft. I guess that's what it's supposed to be.
Soft.
Oh, poor Matt. Poor Matt.
Me too. I would suck at it. I'm not saying I would be good at it. Listen, I am just trying to promote the idea of this game becoming new. I want somebody to pick it up. And
You just want anyone to make it.
yes, I don't care who it is. Like Disney, go. I don't.
Disney actually makes good games now. If you want a bad example, we'll say, some random studio like Marvelous Entertainment pulls out a copy of Legend of Dragoon, please. Oh my god. An RPG party has no chance without a competent healer. That's for sure.
Exactly.
That's 100%. I mean, the best part is you and I both play MMOs, and we both play healers in MMOs, so we know what that's like as well. Like the party dies without us, and we're not paying attention.
They need us.
Yes.
They need us, but they hate us.
That is kind of how that works. Because I was going to say, like, if you're a healer in an MMO, no one really appreciates you until everything goes bad, and then they're like, what's wrong with you? Why didn't you do a good job? And it makes me sad.
Yep.
Yeah. But other than that, I have more games to show off, but I want to know from you, what are some more RPGs from PlayStation that you played?
From the PlayStation? Ooh. Chrono Cross. I really liked Chrono Cross. Wait, was that PlayStation?
It is PlayStation because I was fishing for my copy that I had right here. I was going to talk about it.
Amazing. Yeah.
I love Chrono Cross. I know a lot of people like Chrono Trigger more, but I don't know.
Cross was my jam. I really liked it.
Same. Like
I
actually
listened to that intro song from Chrono Cross forever.
It's so
I loved it.
Yeah. I actually love Chrono Cross. I think this game is so good. And yeah, it's too bad that a lot of people just are like, oh no, Chrono Trigger is the best one. But I don't know, man. There's something about Chrono Cross. And I also love too how it really ties into the story of Chrono Trigger.
I would be fine with both being remade. They're both good games.
Yeah. And we did get a re-release of Chrono Cross on modern platforms. So at least we have that. But yeah, I would also leave those. But honestly, I'd love to see just a new Chrono game, just in general.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't even have to be this one. It can be something else. But so Chrono Cross is another one.
What about, like, I said that I didn't play Dragon Quest games, but I did play one of the Dragon Quest games, but it wasn't a PlayStation game or anything like that. It was a Nintendo 64 game. I don't remember which one it was, though.
I don't think Dragon Quest existed on N64.
It wasn't, maybe it wasn't Dragon Quest. It was something, Dungeon?
It could have just been Quest 64.
Oh, Quest 64. Yeah, there you go.
God. Oh my god.
Yeah, I played Quest 64 like crazy. My dad loved that game, too.
Okay. That was one that, like, I always saw at, like, the local store, like the rental store, but, like, never rented because everyone said it was terrible.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to just show my screen because most people don't know the Quest 64.
Yes.
That's what this looked like. You run around, you got a little magic wand.
I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember
this is what it looks like. Yeah, never played this game.
I feel like there were actually so many iconic N64 games that were great. PlayStation, I'm having trouble remembering right now. There was another really long series on PlayStation that also had an anime. You and I talked.
Dot Hack?
No, Dot Hack's a great one though.
But that's PS2 though.
Yeah, that was a great one. No, it wasn't Dot Hack. It was another one that is like still coming out with new games now and has been like always, I think, for a long time. Damn, I forget what it's called. It's got like a ton of games.
Yeah. Not Tales or anything like that.
No, not Tales. Tales games are all really good too, though.
We'll talk about
Tales
Tales in a
games,
second.
Fire Emblem games, they're all great.
Yeah. But I'm going to, while you think about that.
Yeah.
I'm going to address some questions in the chat here. Of course, Garrett Bland says, oh, hey. Hello, Garrett. Hope you're having a lovely, lovely Saturday. By the way, this week, shout out to Garrett Bland, by the way, my usual co-host. It was his birthday this week. It was his 30th
Happy
birthday. So happy belated birthday, Garrett. I hope you had an awesome, awesome day. Thomas D says, Wild Arms was a favorite of mine. Did you ever play Wild Arms on the PlayStation 1? Do you even know what this is?
I did not play it. I do remember seeing it, but okay, anything that was remotely like not anime looking and not girlish, I stayed away from.
Okay, because like Wild Arms was like a Wild West anime role-playing game, and there were a couple of them, and I think they were actually pretty fun games. They're also on PlayStation 5 as well.
Star Ocean.
There you go. Star Ocean. Oh, so you played first departure or second departure? Do you remember which one?
I do not remember.
Okay. Star Ocean, I actually think like Second Story on PlayStation is such a good game. I do.
I definitely played Second Story. I think that was actually my first
game.
game.
Okay. Yeah, because that game is really good. Especially like I don't know if you saw that they did a remake for Second Story, but it's awesome.
Really? I need to play that. You need to link it to me later. I need it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. Yeah, because it came out on PlayStation 5, not last year, but the year before, 2022. It was really good though.
Also, Suikoden games. But did you play those?
I did not play Suikoden, but tell me about Suikoden.
So I feel like they remind me of like Fire Emblem games, kind of.
They're more like turn-based role-playing games with like 5 characters.
Yeah, but I mean like you have like a collection of characters that you can find, and there are characters that you can miss, and like some are part of the
like
main
over 100
storyline.
characters in that game. I think.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. Like it reminds me of that part of Fire Emblem where it's like a character collection game.
Yeah.
Also,
Also,
good stories.
I have to point this out. Nagashaka says, let's pretend Quest 64 doesn't exist, please.
No, I like that game. I want to pretend it does exist.
You heard it here, folks. We finally found the person who actually likes Quest 64.
Hi.
It happened. It happened.
It's me.
It's
I'm
me.
the problem.
Yeah. Of course, we gotta talk more about Final Fantasy games. Of course, Final Fantasy VIII. I know, one of your favorite games ever on the PlayStation 1. I didn't like it as much but I also never really owned that game until much later. We rented that game a couple times from the video store, but I never finished that game and just wasn't really super into it. But I know you were.
So I really do believe the theory that women aren't as into video games because they weren't as appealing to them back then, and Final Fantasy VIII checked all the boxes for me. It was beautiful. It was a massive upgrade from 7. It had a really, really like girly but independent, cool character, Rinoa, even though I know a lot of people disagree with me. She's like the ultimate badass in my opinion, because like she picks herself up and gets over her shit, you know, like she just goes for it. And I love her for that. And I feel like that's what games were kind of missing, was like a strong female character like that. Even Final Fantasy VII for me, like Aerith was a strong female character, and then it's not fair, you know. And they make Tifa out to be a strong female character, but she's so shadowed by Cloud in the original. You know, so for me, Final Fantasy VIII checked all of the boxes, so I loved that game, and I wish there were more games like it back then. Yeah,
that's a game too I haven't played since the PlayStation 1 era, so like I probably should give it another chance one day. But yeah, I love that about that. I love that take as well, because like you're right, like there weren't really back then, there weren't a lot of games with strong female characters. But that's actually one of the reasons why I like Lunar as an example, because like Jessica in particular was one of my favorite characters out of that game, because she is she's just such a no nonsense kind of girl in so many ways. Like I love that about her, and just loved her character, and just also really liked the dynamic she had with Kyle as well through that whole game as well. Like their whole romance. So yeah. Of course, Nagachaka points out someone summoned Awesome Dave 1337, who in the community is probably the biggest stand for Final Fantasy VIII I've ever seen in my entire life.
Oh, really? That's funny.
In the Discord, his current name is Final Fantasy VIII is life, Final Fantasy VIII is love. So,
I mean, I wouldn't disagree with him. I do like that game a lot.
Yeah.
I think I've beaten that game. That and Legend of Dragoon are like the 2 PlayStation games I think I've beaten. I might have beaten Chrono Cross too. So, maybe 3 games that I've beaten.
Okay, nice. I'm actually looking this up. So Thomas D says, a guilty pleasure for me was Tecmo's Deception Invitation to Darkness. I had no idea what this even was until Thomas D brought it up. I don't think so either, but apparently, let me just do this here, because I'm going to show it off here, because we need to find out what this game is.
Yeah.
It's like this. It's like a first-person role-playing game.
Oh, this is cool.
Yeah. This is interesting. I've never really been like a first-person role-playing fan. There's a person just walking in the corner. You're just walking around. You look at this big old brain guy. Like, what is going on with this game?
UFO catcher minigame.
Yes, exactly. I am very confused as to what's going on with this game, but it looks interesting. I'm gonna have to check that out after the show.
Yeah, that looks pretty cool. I've never seen it before. Actually, it looked familiar.
I've definitely seen the box art for that game before, but like I've never watched like a video for that game before, or actually seen like any combat from that game. But yeah, shout out to that.
Why you're completely skipping over like some of the best games ever in older consoles too, like Nintendo console, like early Nintendo consoles, like Secret of Mana.
That's true. I didn't skip over them on purpose. I just know that they weren't the games we grew up with. which is
Secret
different.
of Mana I did grow up with.
Oh, you didn't say that.
My
I
dad
asked
had a Nintendo 64, or sorry, an NES and an SNES.
Yeah.
So I would always play the SNES, and I definitely grew up with like the original. I still have my original copy of The Secret of Mana.
Yeah.
I loved that game as a kid. That was a really good one too.
I was gonna say every time I've been over and I've seen that pristine copy of Secret of Mana, I get so jealous because it looks
It's
so
mine.
nice.
I'm never getting rid of it ever.
It looks really nice, but yeah, because I love Secret of Mana as well. But that was a game I didn't really play until I was older, until like emulators kind of came around.
I played a lot of the Secret because there's also Secret of Mana games for the other consoles as well. But what console was it that Legend of Mana was on?
So that was a PS1 game.
Okay, yeah. So I played Legend of Mana too. I beat that game, but that wasn't a difficult one to beat.
Yeah, that was one that like I remember reading reviews at the time and it being most people saying it wasn't great. So I never actually ended up picking it up, despite the fact that I saw it on the shelf all the time because it was like
it was a nice combination of like fun but not too long, and like it was still interesting. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah. Well, you built like your settlement out, and then you went on adventures and stuff like that. You built out the map, which was like an interesting concept. But again, we got that remake of it as well. Like maybe I should play it at some point because that is on modern platforms.
Did you ever play The Bouncer?
I did not. No.
It's like an 8-hour game max. I finished it in one sitting.
Nice. I heard that's a good game.
It was a fun game. It was like a beat 'em up RPG.
Yeah, which is cool. Like we don't get that many of those that often. Yeah, the closest we get now is something like River City Girls 2, which is a very good game. But,
I need to try that. I've heard you talking about it a lot.
Yeah, I played it on stream before it came out, and like the developers came in, and we had like a nice chat and stuff.
I remember. I watched.
Oh yeah, that's right. You were there. But a couple of other games that I wanted to shout out before we kind of move away from this topic and then and answer some questions. One from me, Xenogears. If I didn't mention this, I wanted to at least. This game has got mechs, and it's made by Monolith Soft, who went on to make the Xenoblade Chronicles games, and this is kind of in their Xeno series.
I have never played any of those series ever, and I want to.
Yeah, this is like a turn-based role-playing game with mechs, and I really, really enjoyed this game a lot. It was one that I played a lot on the PlayStation 1, so got to give a shout-out to that.
Ryan.
What's up?
We haven't even talked about like Catherine, which is the best game of all time.
But that's a modern game.
It's not that modern.
I mean, it only came out. It came out like what?
It's like for what, Xbox
15 years
360?
ago. Yeah, only 15 years ago. It's
You
fine.
think Xbox 360 is modern?
What's modern enough?
I think anything that they don't sell at EB Games / GameStop anymore is not modern.
That's true.
Yeah. So.
I mean, I was kind of saving our talk for Catherine for another episode.
Okay, well, that's fine with me.
I need an excuse to get you back here.
Okay, I'm
Catherine's a good
happy to
reason.
do like a full episode on Catherine.
We should do a full episode.
We should just play it. We should do a dual play. Like, can we play?
Actually,
it
that would be
together?
like one of the most fun live streams ever. Just us like going and making decisions and having the chat chime in with like some of the decisions.
2-player it, right? It's 2-player.
You're not remotely.
Oh, I know, but yeah.
We can
You're not
pretend.
that far away.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That would be pretty fun. But yeah, like we'll talk about that later. Well, that's an off-air topic. But,
Okay.
I also want to mention the Tales games on PlayStation 1, Tales of Destiny 1 and 2. These are in very fancy cases because they are very expensive. So I'm
cool.
feeling bad just even holding these with the possibility of dropping them. But Tales of Destiny 2 in particular is not actually the sequel to Tales of Destiny. It's actually a completely different game. They just called it Tales of Destiny 2 in North America just for the heck of it. Even though there's a separate Tales of Destiny 2 that's actually a sequel to Tales of Destiny that came out in PlayStation 2 but only in Japan.
Oh, America.
Yeah, I just loved the legalization process back then. But these games I really enjoyed as well. I think they're really, really fantastic games. And of course, Nagachaka mentioned this earlier. But also, Parasite Eve, which we'll talk about in a second. This you would probably not like because it's a horror game.
I do remember it, though.
Yeah, it's a horror role-playing game, but it is a fantastic one. It's also very short. And again, I know that Matt is currently playing this right now. And I'm so excited to pick his brain about it on the PlayStation Drive tomorrow. Also, welcome on in Sean Capri, who, by the way, I'm going to promote as well. Sean Capri's birthday stream is actually happening immediately after we're done today over on Twitch.
Exciting.
So twitch.tv/carpoolgaming live. Go head on over there, 12:30 Eastern time for Sean
Happy
Capri's.
birthday.
Not only that, it's his 40th birthday, Lissala. So
I did not know you were that old, Sean. You do not look that old at all, just so you know. You are aging beautifully.
I was going to say none of us really look our age too, which is just funny to think about.
Holy, no, I seriously thought Sean was maybe in his early 30s. Wow.
Yeah, Sean and I are around the same age, which is funny. But
Crazy.
he's currently eating McDonald's breakfast at the moment, which is probably the most Sean Capri answer I've
It's
ever
okay.
seen.
You work out or you do a lot of like running and stuff, right? You can work it off.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can work that breakfast off, but Sean also notoriously always goes to McDonald's for stuff, so it makes sense.
That's funny.
And of course, Matt brings up, of course, you need to play Xenoblade.
What
We don't
one
need to
should
do
I
that.
start with then? Like, is there one that I can start with somewhere?
I mean, they're all on the Switch, so like
Oh, are
maybe
they? Okay.
maybe the first one, or maybe 3. A lot of people say 3 is the best one to start with, even though it's the third one.
Like, you're talking about like the old ones though, right? Not like Xenoblade Chronicles, right?
No, Xenoblade Chronicles. That's what he's
Okay,
talking
so start with the first Xenoblade Chronicles, and that like I don't need to know anything before that.
No, because so the thing is about the Xeno series in
Mm-hmm.
quotations, because there's Xenogears and Xenosaga, which are the trilogy that's on PlayStation 2,
Okay.
and then Xenoblade Chronicles. They have Xeno in the name, but they are not connected. They're only connected by themes. So it's similar to Final Fantasy, where like
Okay.
you don't need to play Final Fantasy 8 to understand Final Fantasy 9.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Speaking of Final Fantasy 9, that's the last game I want to
I was gonna say we didn't even talk about 9, which is also a brilliant game.
I love Final Fantasy 9.
Yeah,
I think
I
this
agree.
game is so good.
I still haven't beaten it. I almost got to the end. You know when you get on the ship on the Ragnarok?
Yeah.
I got that far and then I got stuck. I don't know what I did, but I can't go. I can't move.
Oh no, that's not good.
I have to replay it. Like I can't do anything. I can't make the ship move. I can't go anywhere else. I'm just stuck in a field outside of the castle.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I have no idea how that even happens, but yes, that is definitely one we need to make sure you play at some point.
Yes.
Maybe they actually, go ahead and actually, do like a remake of Final Fantasy
I
9
want
at some
it.
point.
I want them to do actual remakes, not just Final Fantasy 7. And they're going so slow with 7.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, I mean, they also decided to turn it into 3 games when it really should have been 2. That's just my
Yeah.
opinion. I've said that for a while.
Yeah, I agree. It's crazy. Like,
Because
can't they...
all of remake could have just been the first 6 hours of Rebirth.
And then
honestly.
also, can't they just like release DLC for it instead of milking us and getting
100% they could.
like, yeah,
They could.
It's silly. It's
Well, I mean, sending DLC out there would probably milk us a little bit.
yeah, a little bit, but I mean, like, still, this is annoying to have to go out and buy new games.
So-
at least it's not as bad as .hack.
Yeah.
.hack was annoying.
Well, I mean, they just were like four games in a series, and then
And then I never got the last one.
and the last one is also the most expensive one now. It's like it goes for like $400 on eBay. So, Captain Awesome chimes in though, answering your Xenoblade question. He said, I would start at 1, so the full storyline makes more sense, but mainly because the gameplay I see, it's hard to go back from Xenoblade 3 to 1 later.
So as long as I don't play 3 first, I should be good then.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. I just won't even look at 3. I'll be like, nope, I don't want to know what the gameplay's like in 3 because then I won't want to play 1.
Yeah. Also, shout out to everyone in chat who's talking about their ages. Well, Thomas D points out, I'm 2 years away from being the big 5-0. That's pretty crazy to
You
think about.
guys, you just don't seem.
We're all old.
like,
That's
you don't seem
the
that
key.
old.
God, we're so old. We're so old. That's all. It's too much. It's too much. But
Man, I need a nap.
same. Well, luckily, we've got some questions from the NPCs, aka the non-podcast characters we refer to. We're gonna start with Nagachaka, who's currently here in the chat, who says, "Question for Lissala. What is the best role-playing game on the Nintendo Switch platform, and why is it the one full experience of the Xenoblade Chronicle trilogy? Hashtag Xenobabes," which is a big thing in Carpool. We do the hashtag Xenobabes. It was on a t-shirt at one point.
Unfortunately, I have not played that game, so I just won't be a good judge for that one. But
I mean,
like,
I was never going to say that one either, because
I would say the Switch is a little difficult for me. I think I've been very picky choosy with which games I get on the Switch, but I have been constantly super hyped for Fire Emblem games. Constantly. A Fire Emblem game comes out, I want it. You know, I need to go on a road trip somewhere, bring a Fire Emblem game. So I definitely say it's the Fire Emblem series. I'm not sure which one I prefer at the moment.
You got two options: Three Houses or Engage.
Yeah, I was gonna say because Engage is pretty good. especially for like nostalgia, but I had so much fun with Three Houses, and there's so much gameplay value in Three Houses. It's fun. So yeah, I would definitely say that. And that's maybe only because I haven't really been through the Zelda games very much yet, but I am going to be doing that. So my opinion might change, but right now it's definitely Fire Emblem. What about you though?
Yeah, for me on Switch, honestly, that's a tough one with role-playing games because one, a lot of great role-playing games that are on the PlayStation 5 and 4 are also on the Switch. So there's a lot of ones to choose from. So I'm going to give kind of two answers here. My favorite one on Switch, probably period, regardless of whether or not it's on other platforms or not, is actually Star Ocean: The Second Story R. I loved that game. Loved that game a lot. And that was probably my favorite RPG on the Switch. It's up. I think it's either that or Persona 5 Royal. Like one of those two are my two favorite on Switch. As far as exclusive RPGs though, like games that like RPGs that only exist on the Switch, like that's a tougher question because I feel like it's probably something like, I don't know, even like maybe it's probably Fire Emblem. Maybe for me, probably Fire Emblem Engage. I liked it a little bit more than Three Houses because I didn't really like the teaching stuff in Three Houses.
Yeah, okay. I actually really enjoyed that. It didn't bother me at all. I loved everything about Three Houses. And for me, I wouldn't have even considered Persona because when I play Persona games, it's usually on the PlayStation.
Yeah, that's the thing. I played Persona and Star Ocean there, but yeah, like when I was thinking about like overall Switch RPGs, I have to at least put those up there, especially because like they both run really well on Switch. So like I think that the Switch is actually a great place to play those games.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I also a couple people chiming in the chat here. Adam David says Persona 5 Royal is on Switch, so that is the best one. And then of course Nagachaka is saying Persona 5 Royal is so good. Also, Nagachaka actually chimes in and actually talks about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is actually the best one because it's the most accessible one. So conflicting answers here on.
I think that's why
Xenoblade.
it's hard. He was saying whoever was saying it was hard to go backwards.
Yeah, it was Captain Awesome.
Okay, yeah. That's probably why, because the gameplay in 3 is better. But I'm still going to start with 1 because I'm that kind of person.
Yeah. And of course, Fire Emblem. Good answer. Thanks, Nagachaka. All right. Garrett Bland writes in and says, I need your top 3 essential 90s role-playing games from each of you. So keep in mind, 90s means Super Nintendo and PlayStation 1. So
Super Nintendo and PlayStation.
So I will go first to give you some time to think. Because I think for me, my number one is the one I always talk about. The one that probably most resonated with me as an adult and is not pure nostalgia talking. It's Parasite Eve. I've talked about it all the time on other shows. But I love horror games. So, of course, this is going to be just naturally on my list. And we just don't get that many horror role-playing games in general, let alone one that's so well put together as Parasite Eve, the original, is. Plus, it's a Christmas game. It takes place during Christmas. I mean, how often do we get a role-playing game that takes place during Christmas at all, let alone there? My next one, of course, we talked about it earlier, Chrono Cross on the PlayStation 1. One of my all-time favorite games, Chrono Cross, and had to include it here as one of my favorites. And then, again, I'm going to just skip the Super Nintendo in general because I am just that person. And I am going to say Shining Force 2 on the Genesis is my third one. But this was the game that got me into role-playing games, but it's also a very, very good tactical role-playing game. So those are my 3. I also wanted to make sure I didn't steal too many of yours as well.
So I feel like I have to go with the games that I've completed for this one because I can't really say it's my favorite if I haven't completed it.
That's a good strategy. It's also, too, like the commitment that's required to beat one of these games. That's how you can tell you really like it, right?
So one game I've beaten multiple times, obviously, Legend of Dragoon.
Yes.
I've beaten that game so many times. I've played it so many times. I love that game. Secret of Mana, going a little further back, but that's still a 90s game.
Of course. Yeah, Super Nintendo. I picked a Genesis game, for God's sake.
Secret of Mana, I also beat that game multiple times. I loved that game. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
The last one was a little up in the air because I agree Chrono Cross is a great game, but I think I have to go with Lunar 2 because, again, that's another game that I've beaten and I really, really enjoyed.
Yeah, and it comes in this chunky box.
And you get a pretty necklace with it.
I don't actually have the necklace.
I do.
I didn't actually come. I'm so jealous. So jealous.
I still have it in its little black pouch that it came in and everything.
Oh my god. I still have the Guess Who pieces. They're still all here, but I don't actually have the necklace anymore.
You just reminded me that there are a ton of other cosplay characters that I can think of cosplaying now, because I can pick Lunar characters and Fire Emblem characters.
You should. You should. I mean, again,
I've only ever cosplayed Naui from Fire Emblem. Noe.
But that's a start at least. But yeah, I was gonna say, like, one of the things I've always known about you since we first met back in 2005. That's how long we've known each other. Was cosplay, because we talked about cosplay a long time ago. Going to Anime North and stuff like that too, which is just also the way I always remember the year that we met was I remember coming into work, because we used to work together, and that's how we met for the first time. And I came in and I was talking about how I bought the collector's edition for World of Warcraft Burning Crusade.
Yeah.
And like, you were insanely jealous. You were like, you need to get me that. Yes, because you were like the cubicle over essentially from me, and you were just like so jealous that I got that. You were just like, you need to give me that, because I'm the true WoW fan. So that's how I always remember.
WoW and Fate Stay Night. That was all you back then.
That was me. Oh, I can't believe I actually remembered that. That's funny.
Oh, yeah. I definitely remember you got me into Fate.
Yes. Excellent. I need to get more people into Fate, because Fate's really good.
Fate is so good, yeah.
Yeah.
And also, like, we didn't even think of, like, mobile games. There are some really good mobile games. Fate has a good mobile... Fate Grand Order, I believe it's called.
Yep.
Fire Emblem has a really good mobile game that I love.
Yeah. I played the mess out of Fire Emblem Heroes, by the way.
Yeah, same. I played Fire Emblem Heroes like crazy. There's all of the Hoyoverse games too. Mm-hmm. They're gacha games, but they're not bad. They're pretty good games.
Yeah, I play those on PlayStation. I don't really play those on mobile though.
Is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon or something like that?
Yeah, that was an anime. But it's also a mobile game.
Yeah. And I played the crap out of that game. It was so much fun.
Yeah,
I loved that game and that anime. It was great with Hestia.
That was actually a pretty good show too.
It was.
Yeah, well, that's more of the connection between anime and role-playing games as well, which we talked about earlier. But last question of the show, just to rounding out the show. This is from Ryu. I think that's how you say it. There's a bunch of O's. If you could have any RPG from the 90s either ported to a modern console or receive a remake, which role-playing game would that be?
Do I need to answer this for anyone? The answer should be obvious, right?
You mentioned it earlier.
Legend of Dragoon.
Okay, but let's flesh this out a little bit, because I need to hear your idea of because obviously you said it needs to be remade, right?
Listen, that entire game. Okay, first of all, if you try playing it on the PlayStation, on the PS5 on a large TV, it looks like crap. It's so pixelated, some of it you can't even you can tell what it is, but it's so pixelated. It looks very not good.
Yeah.
So they need to at least do some kind of remaster that, I don't know, glazes over the pixelation or something, if they're not going to do a full remake of the game. But that game has so much potential. Not even just that game, but think about Rose and her people. Mm-hmm. They could have done a prequel to this game and it would have been so good. I would love to see Rose and her story and her love life and everything that happened to her, because she's such a fleshed out character already in the first game. Mm-hmm. It's just natural that she could have been the main character in another game.
Or what they could have done is they could have done a prequel that is the story of the original heroes.
Exactly.
Trying to stop that elf dude.
Exactly.
Whose name I'm forgetting.
Yeah, but it would have been, there's so much potential, and I don't understand how they're just sitting on that and not doing anything with it. It's such a good game.
Yeah.
At least remaster it. Don't just stick it on the PS5 as a port and leave it at that.
It's a Sony first party game and it's just sitting there. You're right.
I'm just glad that when I'm playing it on Twitch, people are watching me on a small screen, so it's not as annoying. But for me, I actually prefer looking at my OBS than I do looking at the screen when I'm playing it, because it looks better.
Well, yeah. A lot of PS1 games, as much as I enjoyed the gameplay of them, visually a lot of them don't stand.
It's hard to go back to now, actually, because it's fun, but it's not. I feel like it's not as fun for the audience when you're playing older games like that, because there's not as much to do. Some of it's predictable. I don't know.
Yeah. That's true. Especially too, if you do like more of the popular games too, like they're like people know those games inside and out, right?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
it's tougher to kind of play those on stream a little bit. Whereas I generally like to go back and play like a lot of older Super Nintendo games on stream or NES games, because I do think they're they really stand up. But also too, it's always just fun just to watch someone who's just played a game so many times that they just run through it just so easily as well.
Yeah, that would be Ocarina of Time for me.
Yeah, or for me, it's Super Metroid, because like I could play that game with my eyes closed and just run through it. And
I
never
didn't
die.
even mention Ocarina of Time, but I played that game more than any game probably. Now
Yeah.
that I think about it, but it's just like it's almost like it's a part of me, so I don't even think about it.
That was actually my very first Zelda game. Was
Yeah,
Ocarina of
same.
Time.
Well, I mean, the first one I played on my own. The
Yeah.
other ones I watched my dad play the NES and the Super Nintendo ones.
Mm-hmm.
I was too afraid to play those ones on my own when I was little. And even when I played the Ocarina of Time the first time, I had to call my dad to find out how to get the sword and the shield. And then after that, when I got to the Deku tree, I was afraid to go in it for like a month. So I just stopped playing the
God.
game for a month because there were spiders inside of it. And
I was just about to ask, was it the creepy face or was it the spiders inside that kept you out of it?
It was both the creepy face and the spiders.
That is honestly one of the most used stories I've ever heard.
And
in my
I'm not
entire
even
life.
exaggerating when I say it was an entire month before I finally was like, okay, I can do this. I don't need to be afraid of video game spiders.
Yes, exactly. To the point where now you just slaughter World of Warcraft spiders like it's nothing.
Heck
You're
no,
just like-
I'm changing those things to like what you can change them to something in the new
You can.
expansion. I forget
Yes.
what it is, but they're cuter than spiders.
Yeah, but you couldn't do that before though.
No, you couldn't. And I was also
No.
afraid to go in the cave. I used to shout, please somebody help me kill the spiders.
I was more creeped out going into the big like wasp nest in Tyrannus instead, because I don't like bees.
Yeah.
So hanging out in the big wasp nest was weird to me. So
That's
it's just-
fair.
I was just like, I'm going to avoid these quests. if I
That's a valid fear too.
Yeah. Also, too, like those quests sucked because they were like all underground with no maps, and you would get lost very easily, and it was very annoying. But, God, we're gonna have to talk about World of Warcraft after the show for a second because I have ideas. But yes, so getting back to the question, I should. So you want to do like almost like a Final Fantasy VII kind of treatment, or
Yes,
what would you want to see?
please, except only one game, not 3.
Well, I mean, it's 4 discs, and
I-
Final Fantasy VII is only 3
Release
discs.
DLCs.
Clearly, that means it's got to be 4 games, right? That's how that works.
No, that's called money grubbing.
I was going to say, it does not need to be 4
Money
games.
grubbing and overworking your developers for no reason. Just
Yeah.
put it all into one game and stop whining about it. Make some DLCs for some extra content, and it's going to be good. It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really need that. Like, I need a full remake. I needed to have, like, a really cool combat system. Like, maybe they could upgrade the combat system to where you have to press, like, more combinations of keys instead of just the 2.
Right.
or
Well, I
something
mean,
like that.
yeah, because even though you're using those same buttons throughout the whole time, like the combinations get really complicated. when you
Yeah,
get, like
yeah,
the
they
later
do.
additions, like to the point where it's like, oh, well, do I use this edition that has like 10 button presses?
Yeah, like
in
I
order
think
to
it's
get the
called
extra
Mad
damage?
Rush or something like that. One of them
Yeah.
just has like click, 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 one after the other. You
I
have to
remember
go
like
crazy.
Meru's in particular being.
Meru's my favorite.
I love her as a character, but her additions are like stupidly complicated.
Yeah, because
later.
she does like the weird flippy thing with her hammer. She goes like, woo.
Yeah, yeah. Especially when you get like the 10 move combo with her, it's just like my
Yeah.
brain hurts. My
Yep.
brain hurts just looking at this and pressing the buttons.
But I love her, and I always had her in my party. She was the best. Oh man, come on, a remake would be so good, especially of like the island areas when you
Yeah.
find Meru and stuff like that.
I am actually like most surprised that's like that's probably the most surprising cosplay that you haven't done yet. Is
I
I'm
want
surprised
to.
that you've never done a cosplay.
I was never confident enough to do Meru, but I want to do Meru, and I probably will do her soon. So
You should.
I just right now I have my guidebook packed up where I have pictures of her in it. So I'm just waiting until we move again, and then after that I'll start making some more cosplays.
Nice. Well, now that we've transitioned back to me, I'm like, first of all, I could just go take the easy route and just say Parasite Eve, because God forbid that they ever put that on a modern console, which they never will. But if they could, that would be my definitive answer. Because not only does it need a really good remake, but also the great game is just great as it is, and it deserves a port. But honestly, I've been calling for this for a long time. But I love the Tales series, and the fact that a lot of the old Tales games, like these ones in particular, like are stuck on old consoles that there is no way to go back and play them, especially the PS2 Tales games. Like that is what I really want to see, like a Tales collection.
I would
almost,
love that. I would love to see that and Suikoden and Fire Emblem all together.
Yeah, and we know that we have like a Suikoden collection coming that's supposed to come out this year, but we still don't have the release date for it. But like, yeah, a Tales collection. We're getting all these Tales remasters of individual games, but like, I gotta want them to go back and give us a collection of like 4 or 5 old Tales games.
I would play them. I have so many Tales games I need to play. I would love to play the old ones though.
I mean, there's just so many of them in general. There's like 20 of them. So.
The one that is on the handheld, the Game Boy Advanced.
Yeah, Tales of Fantasia.
Yes, that's one of my favorite games. I always forget about that one. It's so good. I wish they would remake that.
I have it complete in the box in the other room, but I didn't think to pull it out. But
that's so cool.
Yeah, that game's really cool. But anyways, I think that's gonna do it for this week's episode of the RPG Cave. Look at this. We made it to the end of your first podcast.
Yay!
Congratulations. I'm so happy we did this. So, of course, before we go, we ought to say thank you to all of our patrons over at patreon.com/carpoolgaming, starting with our ultimate producers, Jonathan Brown, the man behind the music on the Xbox Drive and the PlayStation Drive. You can find out all of his music under Purple Monkey Entertainment at the linktree linktr.ee/pme/.jib. And Cwagmire, who humbly reminds you that the best babes are, in fact, Xenobabes. All of the links to all of our ultimate producers can always be found in the description of our podcast, so please make sure to go support them as they support us. Our Platinum producers, Peje, Smokin Joe, The Captain, and Tim Paullin. And our Gold members, Adam K., Anna, Awesome Dave 1337, aka the Final Fantasy VIII Master, BobLoblaw, Brad Moore, Brian Reese, Cecily Carrozza, CowboyDangerD, Dan and Luma, Dannohh, Drellesh, Emily O'Kelly, Hoppel, Yon32, Kia Savoy, Patrice Mallette, Shane Erickson, Tech Mike, the Jiggy Collector, and Tim Aulph. Huge thank you once again to all of our patrons over at patreon.com/carpoolgaming. If you want to hop in the car with us, head on over there, choose the tier that's right for you, and get all that exclusive content, including, of course, the Paints Patreon podcast for patrons podcast, Campfire, and a whole lot more. All right, without further ado, Lissala, make sure to remind everyone where people can find you.
You can find me on Twitch or Twitter at Lissala la la la.
Nice. And again, your pillar link will be in the description of this podcast, so check out all her links there for all her good stuff. And first of all, thank you so much personally for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, this was a lot of fun. We'll definitely have to talk again for sure. Yes. As for me, you can find me on the old Twitter, aka X, at Ryan Turfing. You also find us on X at Carpool Gaming, right here at youtube.com/Carpool Gaming. Of course, on Twitch, twitch.tv/Carpool Gaming Live, which, by the way, 12:30 Eastern Time. That's in 20 minutes. Sean Capri's 40th birthday stream starts. So make sure to go head on over to Twitch and we'll go celebrate Sean's birthday with him. He's playing a bunch of old games and a bunch of games that he enjoys, like the UN Squadron on the Super Nintendo, as well as some other stuff. So go and support Sean as well. And then you can also find us on podcast services around the globe. So for Lissala, I'm Ryan. This has been the RPG Cave, level 147, and we're out. Good night, everybody.
Bye.